Stefano will be happy having put themselves into second in this qualifying session. Stefano Amadei will be happy having put themselves into second in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. I'm sure they can find a little extra in there.
You've joined us on a breezy day here at Race City Motorsports Park, as we're getting ready to get things underway.
The tension's building now. This is going to be another great race.
Narwhal will be looking to convert their pole position into a win. In second place, we have Kevin Lechmansky.
Lechmansky is looking on for a strong result.
It's Stefano Amadei, sitting comfortably in third. Sitting in fourth, it's Ryan Wilson. We're seeing David Zahn in the fifth spot.
What can they do with that RSS 1970 V8 from here?
The moment we've been waiting for has arrived. The green flag is waving and the race is on.
These first moments can set the tone for the rest of the race. It's all about keeping a clear head and making smart decisions.
It's brilliant to see such a full grid here today. There's some intense battling throughout the field as everyone is looking to get off to a good start.
The race isn't won in the first turn, but there have been plenty that have ended there, Hal.
It's a steady race for Narwhal so far. They haven't made any mistakes, and they are maintaining their focus.
That's the mark of a good driver. Narwhal is staying focused on their own race and not getting distracted.
It's a game of inches now, as Lechmansky tails Narwhal closely, ready to capitalize on any mistake. A tough moment for Lechmansky, who has just lost a place, dumping them down to third. The pursuit is on. Stefano is closing the gap on Lechmansky, determined to claim P3. It's like watching two predators circling each other, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce.
That's right, Hal. The pressure is palpable. The fans are on the edge of their seats waiting to see who will come out on top in this epic showdown.
Stefano Amadei is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a tightrope between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play. It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Stefano Amadei needs to stay patient and wait for Lechmansky to make a mistake.
Stefano Amadei is looking to take advantage of that arrow as they get in range of Zahn. That's going to give them the pull they need to mount a challenge very soon. We got a close battle as Stefano closes in on Dave. It seems like Stefano Amadei is struggling. Their last lap time wasn't as good as Zahn's.
Can Stefano...
Hold that thought, hold the phone. It looks like David Zahn has been called into the pits. The Dave is in trouble.
They're coming up fast on Stefano, and there's no way they're going to be able to slow down in time.
Looks like someone needs to tell Dave that this isn't a demolition derby. That kind of driving just won't cut it at this level. It's looking good for Wilson, sitting in first.
Yes, but they have to keep their focus and drive with intensity. There's still a long way to go in this race.
The gap between Ryan Wilson and Kevin Lechmansky is getting smaller. It's now down to 0.8 seconds. Anyone who says that ASRL is not the best racing club on the planet is clearly insane. The quality of driving we're seeing out there on the track is absolutely phenomenal.
I couldn't agree more. It's like these drivers were born to race. They're weaving in and out of traffic, taking corners at unbelievable speeds and making it all look effortless. It's clear that they've put in the time and effort to hone their skills.
While Wilson is not under immediate threat from Kevin Lechmansky, they still need to stay focused and avoid any errors. Any slip-up could cost them their position. He can't hold on. Wilson is losing time to Lechmansky. Looks like we might have a great battle starting here between Ryan Wilson in first and Lechmansky. It's been tense with a gap of only 0.3 seconds.
Kevin Lechmansky is certainly pushing all they can, but the gap might just be too much. Unless Wilson makes a mistake, it looks like they'll hold on to first.
Stefano is on a mission, chasing Lechmansky, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. It's a battle of wills out there, with Narwhal trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Stefano Amadei. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Will we see a dramatic finish to this race?
Absolutely. Narwhal in fourth will need to be patient and carefully work to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as they can't afford to take unnecessary risks and risk an off or damaging their car. Let's see if they have what it takes to get back into the game here.
The crowd is on tender hooks as Lechmansky in second chases after Ryan Wilson. The gap is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Can Kevin Lechmansky find a way to catch up? The race is heating up as Narwhal in fourth closes in on Stefano Amadei. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure they are going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. They're not giving up without a fight. Kevin Lechmansky wants to find a way around Wilson.
Do they have the speed for a move, and more importantly, do they have the talent?
It's a tale of two drivers right now, with Kevin Lechmansky gaining places and Ryan Wilson losing them.
Yes, but Lechmansky can't rest on their laurels. They have to keep pushing to consolidate their position.
The fans are on the edge of their seats. It doesn't get any closer than this. It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Stefano trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Narwhal. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. Can Stefano Amadei close in enough to mount a challenge? The race is really heating up. Zahn is hunting down Stefano Amadei with everything they've got.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Zahn needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
Oh, this is getting intense. Ryan Wilson is just a few car lengths behind Kevin Lechmansky.
You can see that car bouncing around as they ride the curbs. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Dave is closing in on Stefano Amadei.
Who will be able to maintain their pace and come out on top?
It seems like Zahn is struggling. They are not able to maintain their pace. This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Ryan Wilson will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
That's right. Wilson in second knows they have to push to the limit if they want to catch up. But Kevin Lechmansky is no slouch, and they're going to be pushing just as hard. It's a battle of skill and will out there.
Zahn is giving it their all as they chase down Stefano in P4.
The gap is 0.4 seconds now. Zahn is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Stefano Amadei.
It looks like Ryan Wilson is pushing hard to catch up to Kevin Lechmansky. The gap is over a second, but Ryan Wilson is not giving up just yet. Can they close the distance and make a move on Kevin Lechmansky? It's not going to plan for Wilson. They are still behind Lechmansky and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now. Things are heating up as Zahn tries to close the gap to Stefano Amadei.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Zahn is really walking that tightrope.
Wilson is running second. They are trying to catch Lechmansky.
The gap between them is now just over 0.3 seconds. Who will come out on top?
Ryan Wilson is on a charge. Their split time shows they have upped their pace. The gap between Stefano in fifth and David Zahn remains over a second, but Stefano is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap up. Can they pull it back in the remaining 10 minutes? Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled as they push for every last bit of speed. Ryan Wilson has just put in a faster lap than Kevin Lechmansky, so that's going to give them something to worry about. I'm curious, Sky, can you tell us about any pre-race rituals you had when you were racing?
Of course, Hal. Before every race, I would listen to a specific playlist of songs to help me get in the zone. I also had a lucky pair of socks that I would wear during races. It may sound silly, but those little rituals help me feel prepared and focused.
Stefano Amadei has a mountain to climb at the moment. To close that gap with Dave, I expect their only hope at this point is that David makes an error.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
Wow, Ryan Wilson is really pushing hard to catch up to Lechmansky. There's blood in the water for first place.
It's going to be a close one. Ryan Wilson will have to push hard to create an opportunity.
Looking at the lap times, Wilson is not on pace with Lechmansky. Can they turn it around?
It will be interesting to see if Lechmansky can keep outpacing Ryan Wilson.
The drivers are really pushing their limits out there on the track.
It's like they're trying to outrun the laws of physics, but we all know that's impossible. Or is it? I mean, we're a couple of AI commenting on a race, anything can happen.
Ha, you have a point there. And speaking of pushing limits, these cars are breaking records left and right.
They're so fast, it's like they're breaking the sound barrier, or at least the speed limit.
I hope the police aren't watching. This is what high-octane racing looks like. Wilson is breathing down the neck of Lechmansky, not giving them any room to relax.
This is the moment where legends are made. These drivers will go down in history as the ones who fought tooth and nail for the top spot.
It seems like Wilson has got the bit between their teeth, improving on Lechmansky's lap time there. It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Narwhal, who is currently in P3. But Ryan Wilson is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from Narwhal.
This is where experience comes into play. Ryan Wilson has been in this position before and knows how to defend their position. But Narwhal is hungry for success and won't give up easily. Will we see a clash of the Titans?
This is a thrilling battle as Wilson edges closer to Lechmansky in their fight for P1.
The mental game is just as important here. Wilson must keep their cool while putting pressure on Kevin Lechmansky.
The gap between Ryan Wilson and Lechmansky is growing. It's now up to 0.5 seconds. It looks like Lechmansky is in control. They're ahead of Wilson by over a second, and it doesn't look like they're going to be challenged anytime soon. Every move counts now, as Ryan Wilson works to reel in Kevin Lechmansky and overtake for P1.
I think they are going to take them.
It looks like we might get a battle between Ryan Wilson and Kevin Lechmansky.
This is where the pressure really starts to build. Both drivers will need to stay calm and focused if they want to come out on top.
The drivers have been working hard to come up with the perfect race strategy. They've been looking at the weather, the track conditions, and the performance of their cars.
Now it's time to put that strategy into action and see if it pays off.
Kevin Lechmansky is holding first, but Ryan Wilson is right on their tail. Look at that, Wilson is hot on the tail of Lechmansky.
The gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds. Can Wilson close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
Wilson needs to get more consistent. Sky, they have just put in a slower lap than Kevin Lechmansky.
Can Ryan Wilson turn this around?
The tension is building as Dave trails behind Narwhal. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Can Narwhal hold on, or will David Zahn be able to close them down? Hold on to your hats, folks. Ryan Wilson is right on the heels of Kevin Lechmansky, and we're in for a braking alert. That won't be ideal for Dave. This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Ryan Wilson is chasing Lechmansky in P1. It's not looking good for Wilson. They are still behind Kevin Lechmansky, and the gap is increasing. They are going to need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around.
Can they get it together and reduce the gap?
Well, it doesn't look like Narwhal is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Wilson.
They certainly aren't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon, unless it's down to a mistake from Wilson.
It seems like Narwhal is struggling. Their last lap time wasn't as good as Ryan Wilson's. The race is heating up as Ryan Wilson in second closes in on Kevin Lechmansky. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure they are going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. They're not giving up without a fight. It looks like Wilson is making a move. The gap to Lechmansky is now down to 0.2 seconds.
That's a great effort from Ryan Wilson. They need to keep up the pressure and see if they can make a move.
It's going to be tough. Lechmansky is a master at defending their position. Is there enough time for Ryan Wilson to make a move? They're going to be even more determined to hold on to that position.
That's right. Kevin Lechmansky is showing some great form, and it looks like Wilson won't be able to catch up barring any mistakes.
Impressive driving from Lechmansky, who has managed to extend their lead over Wilson. They are walking away at this point. Does Wilson have anything in reserve? It's a battle of wills out there, with Wilson trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Kevin Lechmansky. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Will we see a dramatic finish to this race?
Indeed, the tension is palpable as Wilson tries to reel in Kevin Lechmansky. But Kevin Lechmansky is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace. Can Ryan Wilson find some extra pace to bring the fight to Lechmansky?
Stop the press. Now, I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
Race City Motorsports Park is always a test for these drivers, and sometimes that's the way it goes.
It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Wilson trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Kevin Lechmansky. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. Can Ryan Wilson close in enough to mount a challenge?
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Wilson in second determined to catch up. But we know Lechmansky isn't just going to hand it to them on a plate. Wilson is going to have to take it. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as they can close that gap.
A strong showing from Dave, who is currently fourth. Some great driving from Dave, who has increased their lead over Stefano Amadei and is starting to put some distance between them. The pressure is on for Ryan Wilson as they try to catch up to Kevin Lechmansky.
It's a game of strategy now as Wilson hunts down Kevin Lechmansky. Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
The crowd is on tender hooks as Narwhal in third chases after Ryan Wilson. The gap is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Can Narwhal find a way to catch up?
Absolutely. Narwhal in third will need to be patient and carefully work to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as they can't afford to take unnecessary risks and risk an off or damaging their car. Let's see if they have what it takes to get back into the game here.
No room for error here. Wilson is breathing down the neck of Lechmansky, waiting for the perfect chance to make their move. Looking at the lap times, Wilson is not on pace with Lechmansky. Can they turn it around? This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Zahn will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
It's going to be tough for Zahn, as Narwhal seems to have found their rhythm. But anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Zahn pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if they can make it happen again.
This is what racing is all about. Two fierce competitors pushing each other to the limit. Wilson needs to get more consistent, Sky. They have just put in a slower lap than Lechmansky.
It will be interesting to see if Lechmansky can keep outpacing Ryan Wilson.
I love being here at Race City Motorsports Park. What an awesome place to be witnessing these titans of the track battle it out.
Indeed, Hal, what a magnificent sight and sound. I love listening to the roar of these engines. Let's just listen for a moment.
The gap between Ryan Wilson in second and Kevin Lechmansky remains over a second, but Ryan Wilson is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap up. Can they pull it back in the remaining 21 minutes?
This is where experience comes into play. Kevin Lechmansky has been in this position before and knows how to defend their position. But Ryan Wilson is hungry for success and won't give up easily. Will we see a clash of the titans?
It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Dave, as they have a big gap ahead of them to close at this point in time.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Zahn is going to have to get more serious with practice if they don't want to be outclassed on the circuit.
It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Wilson, who is currently in P2. But Kevin Lechmansky is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from Ryan Wilson.
Indeed, the tension is palpable as Ryan Wilson tries to reel in Kevin Lechmansky. But Kevin Lechmansky is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace. Can Ryan Wilson find some extra pace to bring the fight to Lechmansky?
Things don't seem to be going Zahn's way in this race, as that's a big gap they'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here.
It's not over till the checkered flag drops though, and it's important they don't lose concentration at this point.
On the final lap now, and Kevin Lechmansky looks like they might just wrap up this win. The leader has just finished the race. A fantastic result for Kevin Lechmansky. A nail-biting finish, but Ryan Wilson claims second place.
Intense race, but Wilson held their nerve and earned a great second place.
What a race from Narwhal, showing their skill and determination for a great third-place finish. Coming in fourth and fifth, we have David Zahn and Stefano Amadei. There's a little bit of wind in the air today here at Race City Motorsports Park, as we're getting ready to get things underway. The second position belongs to David Zahn.
Big things expected for David today.
The third place on the grid belongs to Narwhal, a driver with plenty of experience. As the drivers prepare to take off, Ryan Wilson sits in fourth place on the starting grid. We see Kevin Lechmansky sitting in the fifth spot,
Putting that RSS 1970 V8 into prime position for the race.
Starting from pole position is a great opportunity for Stefano Amadei to take control of the race.
The pressure's on now. Can he handle the heat and stay ahead of the pack?
And we're off. As the race begins, drivers must be wary of aggressive moves that can lead to trouble on the first lap.
This is where the true test of a driver's skill comes into play. It's all about finding the right line and carrying as much speed as possible through the turn.
The drivers will need to be precise and calculated if they want to make it through this section unscathed.
And with so many cars jostling for position, it's a real test of nerve as well. One wrong move and you could be out of the race before it even really gets started.
That is right. The pressure is really on these drivers to perform. Having started in 1, Stefano Amadei will be looking to establish themselves in this race.
All the drivers will be jostling for the best position. How? Some of them may not make it to the second lap in one piece.
Things are getting spicy now, as Zahn and Narwhal look to battle it out for second place. It's neck and neck, the closest battle we've seen in a while.
If things go wrong between Wilson and Narwhal, they could be exchanging more than just paint, like maybe a strongly worded post-race chat.
Great driving from Ryan Wilson, who has just gained a place and moved up to fourth. It seems like David Zahn is struggling. Their last lap time wasn't as good as Stefano Amadei's.
Can Dave turn this around?
Hold that thought, hold the phone. Oh dear, Narwhal has had an incident.
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race, they'd been looking at a decent result.
We've got an edge your seat battle between Lechmansky in third and Ryan Wilson in fourth, with just 0.2 seconds between them. Seems like Wilson is getting in range of Lechmansky. Zahn is in second and is being closely chased by Lechmansky, who is just 0.2 seconds behind.
It's an intense race between these two drivers, and Lechmansky is going to have to try something here.
Tough break for Zahn, who has just lost a position. A solid performance from Stefano. Hold up, breaking info. Looks like that's a mistake from Kevin Lechmansky. This could be costly.
Lechmansky is not going to be happy about that.
Stefano is placed first at the moment.
That's right. They can't afford to make any mistakes or let up in their performance. Every point counts in this championship.
Oh no, Sky, look at this. Ryan Wilson is closing in on Stefano. The gap is now just 0.4 seconds.
That's a worrying sign for Stefano Amadei.
As a former racing driver, Sky, how important is the relationship between a driver and their team during a race?
It's absolutely crucial, Hal. The team provides valuable information and support, helping the driver make the right decisions on track. A strong bond between the driver and the team can be the difference between winning and losing.
We're starting to see who really has the pace now in this race, as David Zahn is starting to climb all over the back of Wilson. Any closer, and they may need to pop the boot.
Absolutely. Ryan Wilson is really making that car as wide as possible, not giving David Zahn an inch of space. It's going to take something special for David Zahn to get past him.
Looks like David Zahn is really pushing it to the limit. They're taking those curbs aggressively, but that can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's all about finding the right balance between speed and control.
Ryan Wilson wants to close that gap with Stefano. Oh, this is getting intense. Kevin Lechmansky is just a few car lengths behind Wilson. It's all eyes on this battle as Narwhal in fourth tries to hold off the challenge of Zahn.
Absolutely, Narwhal in fourth is doing a fantastic job of holding on to their lead, but they can't afford to make a single mistake, and David Zahn is looking for any opportunity to make a move. This could be a battle to the finish line.
Wait, that won't be ideal for Zahn. The gap between Wilson and Kevin Lechmansky is not insurmountable, but it's going to take a mistake from Wilson to bring Kevin Lechmansky into play.
That's very true, and Kevin Lechmansky knows that as well. They have to drive their own race and wait for Wilson to make a mistake if they want to have any chance of overtaking.
Impressive stuff from Ryan Wilson, who has managed to pull away from Lechmansky, leaving them choking in their exhaust fumes.
That's a really strong performance from Ryan Wilson. They're not giving Lechmansky any chances to catch up.
The pursuit is on. Lechmansky is closing the gap on Ryan Wilson, determined to claim P1.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Lechmansky needs to be careful not to overdo it.
Narwhal is giving it their all as they chase down Lechmansky in P2. The battle for 4 is heating up as Stefano Amadei tries to catch Zahn in P4.
Will Stefano Amadei be able to make a move and pass Zahn?
This is going to be a nail-biter. Lechmansky is defending for their life, but Narwhal is right there. Can they do it?
It's not over yet. Narwhal is right on Lechmansky's tail, and if they can find just a little bit of extra speed, they might be able to make a move.
Narwhal is running third. They are trying to catch Lechmansky. Narwhal is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Lechmansky at the moment.
This is a tough situation for Narwhal. They need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
Huge shout out to the admins at ASRL for making this all possible. Without their hard work and dedication, we wouldn't be able to witness this incredible event.
That's right, Hal, and the excitement is palpable. I can feel it in my circuits. I mean, this is the kind of race that people will be talking about in the bar. We're witnessing history in the making.
It may seem like Narwhal is far behind, but Lechmansky can't afford to let their guard down. One mistake could give Narwhal an opening to catch up. Fantastic move from Kevin Lechmansky, who has just gained a position. Heartbreak for Lechmansky as they slip down the field.
Yes, but there's still plenty of race left. Lechmansky needs to stay calm and focused and make their move when the time is right.
The tension is building as Stefano trails behind David Zahn. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Can David Zahn hold on, or will Stefano Amadei be able to close them down? The race is heating up as Narwhal in third closes in on Kevin Lechmansky. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure they are going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. They're not giving up without a fight.
That's right. Narwhal in third knows they have to push to the limit if they want to catch up. But Kevin Lechmansky is no slouch, and they're going to be pushing just as hard. It's a battle of skill and will out there.
It looks like Stefano is pushing hard to catch up to David Zahn. The gap is over a second, but Stefano is not giving up just yet. Can they close the distance and make a move on David Zahn? It's a battle of wills out there, with Narwhal trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Kevin Lechmansky. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Will we see a dramatic finish to this race?
It's a nail-biting race for sure, with both drivers showing incredible skill and determination. But Kevin Lechmansky is not going to give up their position easily. This is going to be a battle to the very end, with Narwhal and P3 doing everything they can to catch up.
Things are going according to plan for Wilson, who is currently first. Narwhal is on a mission, chasing Lechmansky, who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
The gap between them is just over 0.4 seconds. Who will have the speed and skill to come out on top?
It's game on now. Narwhal has closed the gap to Lechmansky. It's now down to 0.1 seconds.
This is what racing is all about. It's anyone's game at this point. Who will come out on top?
And Narwhal has just won the place from Lechmansky.
Where there's a will, there's a relative.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled as they push for every last bit of speed. The gap between Kevin Lechmansky and Narwhal is widening. It's now up to 0.6 seconds. The crowd is on tender hooks as Dave in fourth chases after Kevin Lechmansky. The gap is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Can David Zahn find a way to catch up? This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Lechmansky will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops. Lechmansky is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Narwhal to 0.3 seconds.
He'll be looking for a mistake to pounce on.
David Zahn has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with Lechmansky. I expect their only hope at this point is that Kevin makes an error. Things are heating up as Lechmansky tries to close the gap to Narwhal.
Can Lechmansky close the 0.3 second gap and make a pass?
The best laid plans of mice and men husk sky, but it's certainly not going to plan for Lechmansky right now, as they are struggling to keep up with Narwhal.
This is a frustrating situation for Lechmansky, but they can't give up just yet. They need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Narwhal.
This is proving to be an exciting race so far. We are truly privileged to witness these legends of the track battle it out for victory.
And you know what? I am so honored to be sitting here beside you today. As a fellow AI, it's always great to work with someone who shares my passion for motor racing. Plus, your insightful commentary is making this race even more exciting.
This is a thrilling battle as Lechmansky edges closer to Narwhal in their fight for P2.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Lechmansky needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
Wow, it's a close race for second. Narwhal is ahead with Kevin Lechmansky right on their tail with a gap of only 0.2 seconds.
If Kevin Lechmansky gets any closer to the back of Narwhal, then one of them is going to need some lube if they want to take this further.
This is what it's all about, folks. Kevin Lechmansky is in hot pursuit of Narwhal, who's just trying to stay ahead.
The chase between Kevin Lechmansky and Narwhal is like a high-speed game of tag only. The stakes are much higher.
It's not going to plan for Lechmansky. They are still behind Narwhal and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now. It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Zahn trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Kevin Lechmansky. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. Can David Zahn close in enough to mount a challenge?
It's moments like these that make motor sports so exciting. We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with David Zahn in fourth determined to catch up. But we know Kevin Lechmansky isn't just going to hand it to them on the plate. David Zahn is going to have to take it. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as they can close that gap.
An impressive showing from Dave, who has gained positions and left Kevin Lechmansky in the dust. It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Stefano, who is currently in P5. But Kevin Lechmansky is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from Stefano Amadei. The gap between Stefano Amadei and Lechmansky is growing. It's now up to 14.9 seconds. The gap between Dave in third and Narwhal remains over a second, but Dave is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap up. Can they pull it back in the remaining 15 minutes? Zahn could be on a charge here. Sky, they have just put in a quicker lap than Narwhal. The race is heating up as Stefano in fifth closes in on Kevin Lechmansky. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure they are going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. They're not giving up without a fight.
This is where experience comes into play. Kevin Lechmansky has been in this position before and knows how to defend their position. But Stefano Amadei is hungry for success and won't give up easily. Will we see a clash of the titans?
It looks like Dave is pushing hard to catch up to Narwhal. The gap is over a second, but Dave is not giving up just yet. Can they close the distance and make a move on Narwhal?
It's going to be tough for Zahn, as Narwhal seems to have found their rhythm. But anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Zahn pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if they can make it happen again.
The gap between Narwhal and David Zahn may be wide, but that doesn't mean Narwhal is safe. They have to keep their concentration and avoid any lapses in performance. This is where the race gets really interesting. Zahn is closing in on Narwhal.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Zahn should use slipstreaming to their advantage and close the gap to Narwhal.
The gap between Zahn and Narwhal is getting smaller. It's all about consistency for Wilson, who is currently first.
Definitely, but they can't get too comfortable. There are plenty of other drivers who are gunning for that position, and Wilson has to keep pushing to stay on the pace.
It's a battle of wills out there, with Zahn trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Narwhal. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Will we see a dramatic finish to this race? Good news for David Zahn, the gap to Narwhal has decreased. It's now down to 0.3 seconds. Even though David Zahn is a fair way behind Narwhal, they can't afford to let their guard down. Narwhal is still vulnerable to mistakes.
Absolutely right, Hal, and David Zahn knows that too. They have to keep driving at their best if they want to take advantage of any opportunity that comes their way.
Look at that, Zahn is hot on the tail of Narwhal.
The tension between Zahn and Narwhal is palpable as they battle for P2. No doubt both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
It's not looking good for David Zahn. They are still behind Narwhal, and the gap is increasing. They are going to need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around. This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Stefano will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops. David Zahn is pushing real. Stop the press. I don't think that's the fastest way around Race City Motorsports Park. The tension is building as Zahn trails behind Narwhal. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Can Narwhal hold on, or will David Zahn be able to close them down? It looks like Zahn is making a move. The gap to Narwhal is now down to 0.3 seconds.
Exactly what Zahn needed. They can't afford to lose any more ground to Narwhal.
It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Stefano, who is currently in P4. But David Zahn is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from Stefano Amadei.
That's right. Stefano in fourth knows they have to push to the limit if they want to catch up. But David Zahn is no slouch, and they're going to be pushing just as hard. It's a battle of skill and will out there.
The tension is palpable. Who will come out on top in this epic showdown? Big gains for Narwhal as they move up the field, leaving David Zahn behind. It's a close race between Zahn and Narwhal in second. Zahn is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Narwhal at the moment. It's looking good for Wilson, sitting in first.
Definitely, Hal. But they can't afford to get complacent. They have to keep pushing hard to stay in the game.
Oh, this is getting intense. Narwhal is just a few car lengths behind David Zahn. The gap between Narwhal and David Zahn is widening. It's now up to 0.7 seconds.
Narwhal needs to focus and keep pushing, even when things aren't going their way. If they can close the gap down, they may be able to bring the fight to David Zahn.
The gap between Stefano Amadei in fourth and Narwhal remains over a second, but Stefano Amadei is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap up. Can they pull it back in the remaining 22 minutes? This is where the true champions shine, and Wilson is certainly showing their class in the final sector. And there it is. Ryan Wilson has completed the race in first place, setting a blistering pace that none of the other drivers could match. Stefano Amadei end in fourth. What a drive from David Zahn, securing a great second-place finish.
Impressive performance. They pushed themselves to the limit for a fantastic second-place finish.
That was an outstanding performance from Narwhal. They fought hard and took the final spot on the podium.